Welcome to the channel where we show you how to put some prep in your step. Today we're going to talk about building out the prep template for a Sunburst chart. Now the example that we're going to be using is based on the Flurridge Twins workbook, and they've got some context and background as far as how they came up with it on their blog post. And so we'll go a little bit over that and then go over how I built it out, why we're taking some of the steps that we're taking throughout the flow to get to the ultimate place where this is something that is a little bit simpler to plug your data in, although you are going to have to make some decisions depending on the hierarchy of your data. And so a Sunburst chart, if we take a look over here at the blog post that we're going to be using, it's kind of like a donut chart, but with some layers, and each slice kind of has levels and hierarchies within it. So really the use case for this would be if you're trying to visualize some hierarchical data. And while there's definitely better ways to visualize some of that, or more efficient ways to visualize some of that, these can be applied tastefully in specific use cases, depending on how many our levels or categories, dimensions are within those, each of those lower levels within the hierarchy. And it's also, maybe it's just a chart that you've never created before. You want to see if it works with your use case and if you can apply it well and make it work with your visualization. So with that, let's jump into it. So the first thing that we're going to do is take a look at the template. So this is the Excel template that is a part of the blog post. And so there's a sample workbook and then this template. And so what we're going to do in the prep flow is we're going to try to design it in a way that this is what you get in the output. And so the join field here, simple, we've just got something called link. But what we're going to do in the prep flow is we're going to design each of these three levels, and then we're going to also apply this sort at the end. So level one, this is just when we look at the template here, and this is the actual workbook. So here, this inner circle, this is level one. So we've got office supplies and technology. And so according to our Excel workbook here, we've got office supplies and technology. Now, level two, that's going to be this second ring here. You can see we've got paper and notebooks, and those fall within the office supply category. So when we look at the chart, we've got paper and notebooks, and those fall within office supplies. And then we've got computers and phones that both fall in technology. So here, over here on this left side, we've got technology, and then we've got phones, and then we've got computers. And then for the third level, these laptops and desktops, or actually let's see up here. Okay, so printer paper, copy paper, and photo paper. These fall within the paper category, but that falls within the office supplies category. So when we look at it, it should be office supplies, okay? Then we should see paper, and then we should see copy paper, printer paper, and photo paper within this category, and we do. And then when we come down here, this is a new section based on that division that's happening there. So notebooks and small notebooks falls within there. And so we have to structure the data in this way. We've got to, the decisions that you have to make on your end are what does this hierarchy need to look like? And maybe that's already built out in your data set. Kind of things have a natural flow of category, subcategory, or status, substatus, whatever it may be. Or maybe you're sort of creating that hierarchy to see what it looks like. And so you've got to decide, what does level one look like? What are all of the dimensions within my first circle? And then for level two, what are those sub dimensions and what parent are they associated with? This could be, manually put together, but that's sort of the point of the prep flows, is to get away from that. And then what you'll also see is the sort field here. And so what this does is this allows, because this visualization here is actually polygons. So all of these polygons, the way that Ken originally designed this, there's a lot of complex trigonometry happening here. And so each of these segments, if I click this, it's an actual polygon that's been created as a shape within Tableau. It's not a typical donut chart where we're just layering a circle on top of a pie chart. It is an actual polygon that's being mapped out. And so in order for everything to be sorted correctly, in order for it to make sure that office supply is going to come first, and then technology is going to come next, And then these, to make sure that all of these things are appearing in the correct order, in the correct place, that's what this sort is doing. So when we look at it, we're basically going to go clockwise for each level. And so this sort field is really critical to making sure that everything lines up in the end. But it's not as straightforward to generate as you might think, because there's a lot of things that we have to take into consideration along the way. So that's sort of the logic behind it, and why this flow is going to be a little bit more complicated than it usually is. There's also this width sheet here, which this is what determines, when we look at the template again, this is what determines the size of each of these layers. So the distance there determines the distance from the center here, and then the width is that thickness, and it's for each level. And usually when I'm building out these templates, I like to build all of as much as I can into the prep flow, just to kind of reduce the number of inputs that you're using. In this case, we're gonna continue to use this sheet as an input, because this just allows you to really easily go in there and kind of fine tune how thick you want each of these layers to be. And that's just easier to do in this case with this Excel sheet than it is if I tried to build it in prep, and it would just be more complicated than it really needs to be. And these are supposed to simplify the process. So now that we've kind of gone over that, let's look at how we go about doing this inside of prep. So I've got prep open, and I'm going to connect to data, and we're going to use my favorite data set, the sample superstore data. So let me find that real quick. Let me see, go to my documents and my Tableau repository. And then our data sources, and ever the version and sample superstore. Cool. And we're gonna use the orders sheet just because it's a nice example of what a desired data set would look like, right? Okay, so we're gonna start with orders. And so this is where we start making some decisions. So I'm going to create a clean step here. And the way that I'm going to create this specific Sunburst chart, our inner circle, level 1, is going to be region. And then what we're visualizing within each of those regions is the categories and subcategories. So what we're going to end up with is something that looks kind of like this. This is what my donut ended up looking like, or not my donut, my Sunburst chart. And so you can see basically each of these levels here is a region, and then these are the categories within that region, and then these are the subcategories within those categories within that region. So since I know region is my inner circle, then I want that to be level 1. And so in order for this to fit within the template nicely, I'm going to go over and find region. So right here, found region, and I'm going to call this component. Okay. And we're going to do it by sales. So we're going to be visualizing how each of these segments contribute to this total sales value. And so I'm going to find sales. I'm going to rename that to value. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click component and value and keep only these fields. And then I'm going to create a calculated field and call that level with a value of 1. And then I'm going to create another calculated field called, actually no, I just need level. Okay, so now we're kind of getting closer to that original structure when we look at the data, right? We've got level, component, and value. Now there's no parent here in this first level, so I'm not going to use that. What we're going to do is we're going to create all 3 of these levels first and then union them. And so we'll end up having a column for parent that's just blank for this first level. Now what I want to do, I'm going to call this level 1. Okay, and I'm going to, now that we've done that, I'm going to aggregate the data, right? Because now we're still working with row level data. We've got a lot of duplicates here, but we want everything to be aggregated. So I'm going to add an aggregate step, and I'm going to say aggregate level 1, and I'm going to aggregate the value and group that by level and component. All right. And now the last thing that I want to do is I want to add another clean step and call that rank. And we're going to create a calculated field here. We're going to call this rank, and we're just going to do a standard rank by value. in order to rank these fields, because the way that I want the chart to be sorted, to be laid out, is when I look at my sort of example here, right? We start, the first level here is going to be the region with the highest sales, and as we go around, the sales will get lower and lower. And then within that region, so for the next level, which would be category, I want those also to go from highest sales to lowest. And then within there, I want that to go from highest subcategory sales to lowest. And so we're gonna use this ranking to make sure that everything is sorted in that order. So we've got the rank here. And so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create my level 2. So I'm gonna add another clean step here. And I'm going to find region again. But now, since this is level 2, region would be the parent here. So I'm going to call this parent. And I want my level 2 to be category. I want to show categories within those regions. And so category now becomes component. And then we rename sales to value. And I'm going to click parent, component, and value, and I'm going to keep only those fields, and I'm going to create a calculated field. I'm going to call this level, and it's going to have a value of 2. All right, we'll call this step level 2. So now we've got level with the value of 2. We've got our parent here, and if we want to look at it in a similar format, right? So it's component, what the parent for that component is, and then the value. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to aggregate again. I'm going to aggregate, call this aggregate level 2. And so these branches here are going to end up being pretty similar, but I'm doing it in this way to really keep track of everything to make sure that it's coming together the way that I want it to. And so we've got the value, which is our aggregated field, and we're grouping that by level, component, and parent. Perfect. So now we've aggregated all of those values. And then we're going to do one last step. We're going to add a rank here. But this time we've got to, because we want everything sorted in that descending order by sales within the appropriate category, we have to create 2 rankings here. We have to take that parent ranking into consideration. Now I could do some joins here and make the flow longer and do it that way. For me, it's easier to process just using an LOD to kind of simplify the number of steps that we're taking and reduce just the complication of all the joins. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to create a field that brings in the total sales by parent. So I'm going to create a calculated field, call this parent value. And we're just going to say fixed at the parent, give me the sum of the value. And so you can see here now I've got 4 unique values, and they should match up. If I click this one, this 739 is for West, and even if I look back in my level 1 branch, that 739 amount is my sales for the West. And so we're doing the same thing here. We're just doing it within this second branch rather than trying to join and bring those values in. So we're going to create a calculated field here, call this parent rank, and we're going to say order by the parent value. I want to do a rank dense, and we're going to do a rank dense because there's some duplication since there's multiple rows assigned to the same parent. We want to make sure that all of the rows that have the same value have the same rank, but then the next value that appears has the next sequential rank, and it doesn't jump a bunch of steps. So we're going to do a rank dense. And so that will give us 1 repeated for every row in West, 2 repeated for every row in East, and so on. So now that we've gotten this rank, now we're going to remove the parent value because we don't need it anymore. And we're going to create the rank to sort all of these values in order. So we'll say rank, and we'll do order by parent rank. So we're going to take the parent rank in ascending order into consideration, because everything that is in the West parent value, since that is the top ranked parent, then all of the values there should start our sort. So the values in West should be ranked 1, 2, 3, And then since East is 2 in our parent rank, then in this rank, we want those values to say 3, 4, 5. And so that's why in ascending order, we're going to take that parent rank into consideration. And then we're going to take the value into consideration and use rank. And so now you can see it's ordering exactly how I want it to. Everything in the West parent comes first because that parent rank is 1. And then those values are ranked in descending order. And it's happening that way within every parent value, which is perfect. So I'm gonna leave that. Now I'm gonna create one more branch. We're gonna call this level 3. And so in level 3, again, similar process, but in this case, I'm going to do something a little bit different than the Excel template in order to make sure that I'm able to take ranks into consideration and in order to create a component value that's going to allow me to color code things properly once I bring it into Tableau. So first thing that we're going to do is take region. And so in level 2, region was our parent value. In this case, I'm going to call this first parent because this was the first parent in my line here, okay? Then I'm going to find category. And because category was the component in my level 2, it's going to become the, here we go. It's going to become the parent in level 3 because it is parent to all of the values that are in level 3. And the values in level 3 are subcategory. And so in this step, subcategory becomes component. And so the way that I'm getting to this, again, is in level 1, I wanted region to be my inner circle. So it's the component. When we get to level 2, region is now parent to all of the values that are in my level 2, which is category. And then when we get to level 3, the category becomes parent to all of my values that are within level 3. And so that's once you decide how you want the Sunburst to have this hierarchy, that's how you decide which columns need to be renamed. So we've renamed those, and then we're going to come over to sales and rename this to value here. Now that we've got that, we're going to find parent, first parent, component, and value, and keep only those fields. And then we're going to create a calculated field called level, and this time with the value of 3. And so now that we've got that, we're going to aggregate again, aggregate level 3. And so we're going to aggregate our value grouped by level, component, parent, and first parent. Perfect. And then lastly, we will add another clean step. We're going to call this one lowest level because if you noticed in the original Excel sheet, there is this value field here called lowest level value, and it's only populated for the values at level 3. And this is because this is what the workbook is actually aggregating for those values. And so we're going to come in here and we're going to duplicate the value field and call. So we're going to duplicate this here. We're going to rename the duplicate to lowest level value. Okay. Then we're going to start our ranking again. And now, and remember, in this last ranking step, we had to first rank the parent value and then rank this value. So on this one, we have to first rank the parent, or we have to rank the first parent first, and then we rank the parent, and then we rank everything. Okay. And so we're going to first use an LOD to create a value for the first parent. So we're going to call this first parent value, and we'll say fixed at the first parent, give me the sum of the value. So again, I get 4 unique values, which are tied to the first parent, which is the region. And then I can create a rank for that. So we'll say first parent rank, and we'll say order by first parent value. and we will use a rank dense to give us those proper rankings. Again, ranks 1 through 4, each tied to the appropriate region. Okay, now I don't need first parent value anymore. I'm going to go ahead and remove that. I need to do the same thing for parent, so we're going to create another LOD called parent value and say fixed at the, but this time we're going to have to say fixed at the first parent and the parent. Give me the sum of value, because I want to make sure that I'm aggregating this within each of those regions properly. So aggregated by the first parent and the parent, give me the sum of value. All right. And now I'm going to say, give me the parent rank, which is going to first take the first parent rank in ascending order into consideration. And then we're going to look at the parent value and do a rank dense of that. And so we get ranks of 1 through 12, which when we look at our second branch, we've got ranks 1 through 12, so that aligns. Okay, now that we've done that, I don't need this parent value anymore. And so now we're going to rank all of these, but we have to take into consideration first the first parent rank, and then the parent rank, and then the final rank. And the reason for that is so we want everything in West to come first, right, in our order. And then we want the categories within West to be sorted in descending order. That's what this 1, 2, 3 does. But then we want the subcategories within this category to also be sorted in descending order, all the way across the circle and in order across the circle. And so that's why we have to first take this rank and then take this rank. So that way, whenever I do this next one, it knows to rank this as 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, 6, 7, 8, so on and so forth. And so I'll call this rank. And so again, order, and we're going to take the first parent rank in ascending order first, and then the parent rank in ascending order, and then we're going to use the value to give us a rank. And I'm going to use a rank dense here just to be safe. Probably don't need to, but you never know if there's any sort of exact values in there. So I'm going to use rank dense. And there we go. It's doing exactly what I want. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, 6, 7, 8, so on and so forth. And this is going to help us when we bring it all together to make sure all of these levels are sorted in appropriate order and starting at 1 and ending at whatever the last row in the data set is. So we've got that. Now we need to union these 3 branches together. So we'll add union, I'm going to add this to the union. So we've got everything unioned together. When we look at this union, the first thing that we're going to do is we look at this table names field, which is created automatically from the union. We don't need it, so we're going to remove that. And that's all we're really going to do here. We'll call this union levels. All right. So now you can see though that the structure here is starting to really fit what we need it to look like. So our where is it? Level, let's find level 1 down here, right? It's got our components, but no parent, no lowest level value, which is exactly what we expect it to look like, okay? Now we're going to create the proper sort and create our join field and also create a concatenated component field, because that's going to allow the sorting, the coloring, and all of that to happen properly within Tableau Desktop. So we're going to create a clean step, call this sort and join. And so first, we're going to create that sort. And we're going to do that by taking into consideration all of those rankings that we brought in. So we'll say order by the first parent rank in ascending order, the parent rank in ascending order, and the rank in ascending order. And again, we're going to do a rank dense just in case. All right. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to do a rank. So it's going to look at the order of the parent rank first. So everything within the parent rank of 1 should go in order, and then everything within the parent rank and it'll go in that order. So we'll see whenever I press save here. All right, so if you look here, everything within level 1 goes 1, 2, 3, 4. Everything within level 2 starts at parent rank 1. And even though these don't have a first parent rank, it's going to take those into consideration first because they have a parent rank. So that goes in order. And then level 3, we get a first parent rank. So everything within first parent rank of 1 is going to come first and then be sorted by the parent rank and then the rank. And so that's how we get this ranking to give us a unique number, a unique rank that is going to order all of my values in descending order within the appropriate category. And now that we've done that, I can go ahead and say first parent rank, rank, and even the first parent field. I don't need, actually wait, I'm gonna keep the first parent field. So you know what? Actually first I'm gonna create my concatenated field. So let's create a field here. And we're going to replace the component field. So we're going to create a new field called component, which is going to replace our existing field. And we're going to say if null component plus hyphen plus parent, then we want to return the component. Okay. And then so you can see here, our value now becomes component and then component dash parent. And that repeats all the way through. But for these values down here that have a first parent, we want these values to say component dash parent dash first parent. And these ones should continue to say component dash parent, and these ones should continue to have the component. So we'll create another field, calling it component again, and just repeating the same calculation. If component plus hyphen plus first parent is null, then component. And so these return the same values, but then the ones that have the first parent add that dash west to the end. And the reason I wanted the first parent at the end is it'll just make it easier for me to go in and add the colors when we bring that into Tableau. All right, cool. And so now I want to take first parent, parent rank, first parent again, and rank. So take these fields, remove those. And so this leaves us, once I move this over here, let me move value and lowest level value. And we've ended up with the structure. If we go and look at our data sheet, okay, we've ended up with that structure. All I need to do now is create a calculated field, call that join, and give it a value of link. Boom, there we go. So this is our data structure, our primary data structure that we want to work with. That's gonna fit nicely into those calculations. Now, again, we're gonna keep that widths sheet as an input, but before we do that, we need to create the path field. So if I look back at the template real quick, there is this sheet called paths. It's just got 2 fields, one for the join, one with a path, because in the workbook, there are bins that create all of the values from 1 to 362. And so we could do that in prep, but because they've already done it with bins in desktop and I just want everything to fit in nicely, we're going to just create that simple 2-layer sheet here. And so let me create a clean step here. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and create a value here. I'm going to call this path min with a value of 1. I'm going to create a path max, the value of 362. I'm going to create a, oops, I messed that up, sorry. Path max value of 362. Create another field called join with the value of link. Oh wait, we've already got that field in here. Perfect. Okay, so I don't need to create that, so we're going to right click these 3 fields, keep only those. All right, so I'm going to call this create path. All right, and then we're going to deduplicate. I only want, as you can see here, it's still repeating the values for every row of the data set. And so I'm going to create an aggregate step, call that deduplicate. And I'm going to move all of my fields into the grouped fields. And it's going to return a unique grouping for every, or it's going to return a row for every unique grouping of these values. There's only one unique grouping because of the only values there, and so I get one row. So now I'm going to pivot these, and I'm going to call this, or I'm going to use a wildcard pivot on path. And so I get 2 rows in one column called path and my join field. So let me go ahead and take this and remove it. And that looks exactly like our sheet over here. Join in path, link, 1, 362. Join in path, link, 1, and 362. I'm going to call this pivot path. I'm going to take this, join it back to my main branch here. It's going to automatically detect that I'm using the join here, and I'm even going to change the color of these so I can just keep track of everything, keep it nice and separated. And so there you can see we've got 2 rows there, and I end up with 168, which is densifying my data, creating 2 rows for every original row in the data set. All right, now I don't need my duplicate join field anymore, so I'm going to come to this field, and that's why I added the color here, so I can see which join field is coming from my right table, and I don't need it anymore. All right, so we'll call this densify. Okay, now I'm going to connect to my widths. Okay, I've got my widths sheet, and I'm going to leave the widths and everything exactly the same. Not really going to mess with them, so I'm just going to go ahead and bring that in, join it, call this join widths. It's detected my levels here, and so I am just going to go in again and find the level field from my right table, which is purple, as you can see here. I'm going to remove it, and that gives me my output. All right, so this output here, and I'm going to call this Sunburst data YT. Okay, that is my prep flow here. If I look at my output step, okay, I've got the join field, the path, the level, component, parent, lowest level. So I've got everything exactly how I want it. So yeah, this should be really easy. Once I click run here, now I'm going to go in and open up the workbook, that Ken provided, and we're going to plug this data in. All right, so here is the workbook template that I downloaded from Tableau Public. And so I'm going to go in here to the chart sheet, and I'm going to first add my new data source. So here's my Sunburst data YT. Go back to my chart. Now, there is a couple of things I need to do to make sure this is a very clean swap. First, if I go into the original data set, if I come down here, I can see that level is in my dimensions and not in measures. And so I need to come here and bring level in my new data set to match. And then if I come here and I look at my value field, in the original data set, it's actually a whole number. And so I'm going to go into my new data set and make sure that that is a whole number. Now, when I replace, I've got working calculations, and even though all of my colors are really crazy right now, everything is actually appropriate. So I got West, which is the highest sales. Everything is going in descending order. Then I got furniture in West, technology in West, office supplies in West, and then chairs within furniture within West, and so on. So everything is sorting appropriately. And so now I can just double click my color legend here. And actually, in order to make sure that my color is the way I want it, is I want the inner circle to be darkest and the outer circle to be lightest. So I'm actually going to come over to component first, come to the sort and change it to a descending order. And then I'm going to go into my color legend here, and I'll start with south. So I'll hold down control and click all of my values that end in south. And again, this is why I did this, to make it easier for me to see real quick. There's 3 more here, the categories, and then the actual south. I'm gonna pick a nice color palette. I've got this teal one, and I'm gonna assign it. And then you can see it assigned from lightest to darkest, and that's why I reversed the sort. And so when I apply that, there is my south and all of my categories and subcategories within South. And so I can go through and repeat that. So I can say for Central, let me do that again really quickly. Click all of these values, Central, and then find another color. We'll do indigo. Assign that palette. Oh, actually, I forgot a few values. So I'll go back down here. Now I'll assign palette. Do it again for East really quickly. Click on all of these values. This part is a little bit more tedious than I'd like, but that's just because we've got all of these shapes and they're not, we're having to create this hierarchical data. That's just the way that we've got to do it. For this one, I'll pick this yellow. And then for my last one, west here, I wonder, maybe a nice blue for this one. Let's do this nice blue. Boom. And there we go. And then if I take this sort and change it back to ascending, then there we go. That is exactly how I wanted that sorted. And you can even see, because of the way I assign the palettes, it does this cool little kind of rotating gradient. Doesn't matter. You can still kind of go in and further customize how that looks. But there you go. That is the Sunburst chart template and prep and how you plug it in. So a little bit more work in this one, kind of having to go through and make it a little bit more complex. But the more that you work with these things, especially if you're not comfortable working with them, you sort of start to see how to solve these problems and really how to make your data structure do what you want it to do. So I hope that this was helpful. I hope you can make use of it. I hope this helps you see your data, understand data preparation a little bit more. And if you've got suggestions on Tableau workbook templates that you'd like to see turned into prep templates, let me know, reach out to me, and I hope to see you in the next one.